Have you ever wondered if the very things you avoid, your fears, your shame, your doubts, might be the exact path toward who you're meant to become? Most people think growth means getting over pain. But what if pain isn't the enemy, but a hidden map? What if the very things you hide from, the parts of you you're most ashamed of, are actually trying to lead you somewhere? In this video, we're going to explore one of the most profound ideas in all of psychology, Carl Jung's theory of the shadow. But this isn't just theory. This is your life. By the end of this journey, you'll understand how embracing your shadow can unlock your potential, clarify your purpose, and give you a kind of peace you didn't know you were missing. Question for you before we dive in. Have you ever judged someone harshly, only to later realize it's because they reflected something in yourself you didn't want to see? Let me know in the comments. Carl Jung, one of the founding voices of depth psychology, believed that every person carries a shadow, the hidden side of your personality. It's everything you repress, deny, or try to disown. Jealousy, anger, lust, insecurity, arrogance. You know what's ironic? The more you try to suppress these things, the more power they gain over you. It's like trying to push a beach ball underwater. The harder you press, the more violently it resurfaces. Jung wrote, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." That's your shadow talking. Every overreaction, every strange emotional spike, every irrational judgment, it's all clues. Take a moment. Have you ever felt intense anger, fear, or even admiration for someone you barely know? Why? That's your shadow asking to be seen. You might have been told your anger makes you difficult, your desire selfish, your sadness too much. So you pushed it down. But suppressed doesn't mean gone. That's where the shadow lives, in the quiet spaces behind your mask. But here's the twist. Jung didn't see the shadow as evil. He saw it as potential. Raw, untamed, full of energy. Beneath the shame and fear live the most authentic parts of you. Let's make this real. Think of someone who seems overly confident to the point of arrogance. If you feel intense irritation, ask yourself, is it possible I've denied my own desire to feel powerful? Maybe you've been playing small for too long. Or maybe someone who seems emotionally intense makes you uncomfortable. Could it be you've numbed your own emotions to avoid being seen as too much? These moments are mirrors. The shadow is the part of you that you locked away because you were taught it wasn't acceptable. But locking it away didn't kill it. It just made it unconscious. And the unconscious runs the show. Let's pause here and reflect. What's something you've been told to hide? What part of yourself do you avoid because it makes others uncomfortable? Drop a comment below. Your story might help someone else see themselves more clearly. Now let's go deeper. Jung believed that confronting your shadow is essential to becoming whole. He called this process individuation, becoming your true, complete self. Not the version that fits in, not the version that pleases everyone. The version that is real, raw, and fully alive. Individuation means integrating your light and your darkness, your pride and your shame, your gifts and your flaws. Only then do you stop living on autopilot. Only then do you begin to choose your life consciously. But here's the hard truth. Most people avoid this journey because it's scary, because it's messy, because it means facing the things you've buried for years. But avoiding the shadow doesn't protect you, it fragments you. And that's why your anxiety spikes in random moments. That's why you sabotage relationships. That's why success sometimes feels empty, because part of you is still hidden. You don't have to keep living like that. In the next section, we'll uncover how to identify your shadow in real life, how it shows up in your relationships, and how it quietly steers your choices until you take the wheel. But before we go, here's something to think about. What if your shadow isn't your curse, but your compass? What if the path to healing isn't in fixing yourself, but in facing yourself? Have you ever found yourself unreasonably irritated by someone, only to realize later that they were expressing a trait you secretly struggle with? Maybe it was arrogance, neediness, or even joy. That sting you felt, it might not have been about them at all. It might have been your shadow calling out. Carl Jung called this phenomenon projection. When we reject parts of ourselves, we often see them in others, It's as if the world becomes a mirror, reflecting our disowned traits so we can no longer ignore them. Have you ever criticized someone for being too ambitious, while quietly resenting your own hesitation? Or judged someone's confidence when deep down you felt invisible? Ask yourself now, what qualities in others consistently trigger you? Who gets under your skin and why? Let's turn this into a conversation. Drop in the comments. What's one trait in others that bothers you most, and what might it be revealing about you? You see, the shadow doesn't want to be destroyed. It wants to be integrated, and projection is its way of knocking on your door. But here's the twist. What if those traits you're suppressing, those you consider shameful or impractical, are actually clues to your purpose? Let's say you've always been creative, but your environment taught you that creativity doesn't pay the bills, so you buried it. But now maybe you admire artists, or secretly envy their freedom. That envy, it's your shadow trying to lead you home. Jung believed the shadow contains our unclaimed potential. In fact, the things we repress are often directly tied to our deepest talents. Think about it. Why would something hold so much emotional energy if it didn't matter? Let me give you a case study. A young woman had always felt a deep urge to perform, dance, act, speak. But growing up, she was told it was selfish, frivolous, so she became shy, reserved, even critical of attention seekers. Years later in therapy, she realized that what she was condemning in others was actually a forgotten part of herself. When she started dancing again, not for praise but for healing, she felt more alive than ever. So I ask you, what passions have you silenced in the name of being realistic? Which qualities in others are mirrors for your disowned power? This is what Jung meant by, the shadow is 90% gold. The gold is your gift, and finding it is a kind of treasure hunt. Except the treasure is buried under layers of fear, shame, and conditioning. Journaling is a powerful tool for digging into this. Write down, what parts of myself do I judge the most? What do I long for, but I'm afraid to want? Who triggers me, and what might they reflect? The key here isn't to act on every dark impulse. It's to befriend the energy behind them, to see your anger not as poison, but as a signal. Your jealousy, not as weakness, but as a longing for something unclaimed. And remember, your shadow doesn't only live in darkness. It also hides in your brilliance. Some people fear failure, others fear their own power. In the next section, we'll explore exactly how embracing this hidden side of yourself can unlock not only self-acceptance, but also creativity, purpose, and deeper relationships. But before we move on, if this reflection sparked something in you, drop a like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. The more we explore together, the deeper we all grow. Understanding your shadow is only the beginning. The real transformation happens when you take that understanding and turn it into action. This is the bridge between knowing and becoming. Let's be honest, facing our flaws is not easy. It's far more comfortable to blame others, avoid confrontation, or stay distracted. But if you're watching this, it's because something inside you knows you're ready to grow. So let's start where it matters most. Radical self-honesty. Not the kind of honesty that says, I'm fine, or I guess I overreacted, but the kind that stares in the mirror and says, yes, I am insecure. Yes, I get jealous. Yes, I want to be loved even when I act like I don't care. Why is this important? Because what you don't own owns you. Carl Jung believed that we reclaim our power when we stop running from our inner truth. He encouraged people to treat their shadow like a companion, one who may be wounded, but still part of the self. Ask yourself, what part of me am I afraid to look at? What pattern in my life keeps repeating, and what might it be trying to teach me? This isn't about self-pity. It's about self-responsibility. Take emotional triggers, for example. If someone's confidence irritates you, ask why. Is it because you secretly wish you could express yourself the same way? If someone's anger frightens you, is it because you've buried your own rage? These aren't just surface reactions, they're messengers. Audience interaction prompt. Have you ever had a moment where someone triggered you, but later you realized it was more about you than them? Share your story in the comments. We might be more alike than we think. Once you've identified these patterns, it's time to go deeper. Engage in dialogue with your shadow. This doesn't mean talking to yourself in public, but in journaling, meditation, or inner reflection, you can sit across from the part of you you've disowned and ask, what are you protecting me from? What do you need to feel seen? What would happen if I accepted you instead of hiding you? It's in these quiet conversations that real integration begins. Think about it like emotional alchemy. You're not trying to erase the shadow, but transform its energy into growth. You might realize your anger was actually a signal for change. Your envy was a clue about your desires. Your fear was just your inner self begging for safety. Practical tip: start a shadow journal. Write down moments when you overreacted or felt deeply triggered. Ask yourself what part of your past or self may be involved. Over time, you'll notice patterns, and those patterns become your power. And here's where the magic really starts. As you integrate your shadow, your relationships change. You stop expecting perfection from others. You begin seeing other people's shadows with more compassion. You realize we're all mirrors for each other. We're all works in progress. And then something radical happens. You stop fighting yourself. You stop hiding. You begin to live with more peace, depth, and authenticity. Tangsipin, the final integration. Wholeness is the new revolution. So here we are, the final chapter of our inner journey. Everything we've uncovered about the shadow, the projections, the repressed emotions, the forgotten desires, it all leads to this moment. A moment of choice. Will you continue to run from your darkness? Or will you choose to turn toward it, understand it, and finally, embrace it? Carl Jung believed that true enlightenment doesn't come from imagining radiant beings of light. It comes from making the darkness conscious. This means going where it's uncomfortable, where it's raw and unfiltered. It means owning the shame, the envy, the fear, the pain. Not to be consumed by them, but to reclaim the power they hold over you. Let me ask you directly. What part of yourself are you still afraid to see? Drop it in the comments. This is a space of reflection and courage. Now imagine this. What if your biggest weakness wasn't a flaw, but a seed? A seed of future strength. A strength that grows precisely because you dared to nurture what most people hide. And this is the paradox of the shadow. It's only dangerous when denied. Once seen, it becomes a guide. Once embraced, it becomes a gift. Let's bring this into your everyday life. When someone says something that offends you deeply, ask yourself, why this? Why now? When you feel a rush of emotion, jealousy, insecurity, even admiration, pause. Ask, what mirror is life holding up to me right now? You see, integration isn't about perfection. It's about presence. It's about saying, this is who I am, all of me, the light and the dark. And that's when something magical happens. You stop performing. You stop pretending. You start living. Jung believed this process, individuation, wasn't just personal healing. It was a collective act. When one person becomes whole, it impacts everyone around them. Think of it like throwing a stone into a still pond. The ripples expand outward. So I'll ask again, who are you? Really? Are you your job title? Your Instagram bio? The roles others assign to you? Or are you the observer beneath all of it? The one who is finally ready to reclaim the self you buried? Let me leave you with this. You were never broken. You were only fragmented. And now, piece by piece, you're coming home to yourself. If this journey has resonated with you, share it. If you felt seen, drop a comment. Subscribe for more content that heals, challenges, and transforms. Your shadow is not your curse. It's your compass. Follow it, and you'll find your purpose.